repeat this process.
I would like to.
You want to repeat this process over and over and over. But what you really want to do is you want to go as fast as you can without a capacitor, for the simple fact is you want to put a lot of this radiant energy to the source.
So, I want to go over this single battery Bedini modification of the flyback capture system. Made a video about this a couple days ago. Here you have the correct version, and here you have the incorrect version. I would like to discuss or draw out here why it's, incorrect. And it's incorrect because it has only one switch on one side of the inductor, the negative side. And that's typically how you switch the Bedini SG monopole system, with a single switch on the negative of the battery or the source. Okay, this will not work because the flyback shorts itself out. Here you have the positive flyback, here you have the negative flyback. Here you have your positive from your battery. It places a positive here and a negative here when it's charging the coil. Okay, when it's not charging the coil, the polarity inverts, the coil loses charge, drops its field, flies back in reverted polarity. The polarity you see here, plus and minus. And the reason why the flyback gets canceled in this circuit with only one switch on the negative leg of the battery is because when the positive flyback goes out this way, comes across this diode to this point here, the negative flyback meets the positive flyback at the same point, and it gets canceled. That is the path of least resistance. The intention is to have it go this way. So the only way to do that is to add a switch right here. And that would be this circuit, which is correct. So again, you place your positive from your battery right here. And you do that when the switch is closed. Of course, both these switches are closing together with a double pole, double throw relay. And they close together with that relay. So when they close at the same time together, you'll charge up the coil with a positive and a negative. Okay, the negative does not go this way because of the diode. The positive does not go this way because of the diode. So the coil gets charged with the polarity of the battery. Charge is removed by opening the switches. Coil flies back in reverse polarity, giving you your positive here and your negative here. With the gates open, both of them, the positive can freely go to this terminal of the battery, and the negative will not be able to meet the positive through this path and cancel out, but it will be able to go this way to the battery. So this is the correct way to do the single battery flyback system. It requires 2 switches on both poles of your source. So double pole, double throw switching. Short video for today. Short educational video for today for those who have gotten educated by this. It will be an educational video for you. And those who have not can watch it again. Hit me up on a live stream. Hopefully I can explain it to you. And yeah. There you go. Over and out.
To repeat this process over and over and over. But what you really want to do is you want to go as fast as you can without a capacitor, for the simple fact is you want to put a lot of this radiant energy to the source.
Mike just cracks the code tonight. Oh yeah, that's true. Wires and circuits that shine in neon lights. Oh yes, he knew. Creating power from the air, he smiled delights. Oh yeah. Mike does it right. Hey. Mike does, oh Mike, he's the one. Teaching us knowledge, lighting the sun. Company's legacy alive. His hands. Mike just knows we're his biggest fans. Down in the basement, secrets start to glow. Oh yeah, white clean blue, not ever shop from brilliantine, not forbidden there. Spreading knowledge flow. Yeah. Energy streams. Mike does, oh Mike, he's the one. Us knowledge, shining the sun. Property's legacy alive. His hands. Mike just knows we're his biggest fans. Years of thoughts, bringing dreams to life, turning theories into electric light. Mike and us, a journey to ignite. Oh yeah. We're gonna reach new heights. Mike does, oh Mike, he's the one. Teaching us knowledge, lighting the sun. Property's legacy alive. His hands. Mike just knows we're his biggest fans.
Here's a possible issue with having a trigger circuit attached to this flyback loop circuit. The possible issue is when this side flies back, you're going to have a positive right here coming off this through this high voltage diode positive, hitting the battery, and your negative flyback will hit here, right? Assuming the battery does not absorb all the flyback, the positive signal will go up here through the diode, through the trigger winding, through the resistor, and it'll hit the base here, the positive, and it'll hit the base here. But the negative flyback will go this way, and it will only hit here, this emitter, thereby triggering only this transistor, causing only this transistor to close, which will then close the gate right here on this battery, allowing the negative channel to connect. But since the other transistor has not been triggered by the flyback, now mind you, this is not intentional. I don't want the flyback triggering any of these transistors. But fortunately, the flyback's only triggering this transistor right now. And since the positive channel here is not being triggered and it stays open, then essentially the flyback triggering the bottom transistor on this battery here, closing this channel, is not causing this battery to charge this inductor, because the other channel here, the positive, has not been closed. It's still open. So I encourage you guys, regardless of this issue, to go ahead and build it anyway with your trigger circuit, if that's what you want to use. Originally I intended to trigger this with not with a trigger winding, because it, but you can do it with a trigger winding, and with a trigger winding you will have that issue possibly. The flyback will cause one of the flyback of the opposite side will trigger the bottom transistor like so. Will cause the negative channel to close again, because the positive flyback goes here, to here, to here, to here, through the diode, hits the base, and the negative flyback goes through here and hits the emitter, causing this to close. I don't see that as a problem, because to get this side of the battery, this side, to charge this inductor, you need both channels to close, not one. Okay? So having a trigger winding will possibly cause one leg, the negative leg, of the opposite of one battery to close at a time when it's supposed to be open, but right after the flyback is done, it's going to close anyway alongside with the other channel. Okay, they're going to close together. And so what I'm saying is, having the flyback trigger one leg is not going to cause an issue, because you need both legs to close in order to charge this coil. So that may be a glitch with having a trigger winding on this circuit. It may cause the bottom transistor to close. May, I say, M-A-Y. Only if this battery does not absorb all the flyback coming in. Now, from flyback from this coil. If this battery is full and it can't absorb any more flyback, then obviously the flyback's going to go the route I said it would go, Only when the battery's full, the flyback will go through. And even if it does, and it triggers one transistor, it's still not enough to get you know, to get this battery to charge this coil up here, is you need both transistors to close. And this negative of the flyback does not reach the emitter up here. Okay? So this negative of the flyback right here, remember that becomes a negative. It doesn't reach up to the emitter up here. It only reaches the emitter here. Okay? And this negative becomes a positive flyback. Channeling through here. And it does reach there, and it does reach here. But like I said, the negative of the flyback only hits this emitter, not this one, thereby only triggering this transistor to close. And, you know, that's not a problem when you are triggering only one leg. What the hell, man? Sorry, excuse my hellish language. It's, you know, accidentally triggering one channel with the flyback from this side is not an issue. You need both of these to close to get this to charge. I don't see it as an issue. And again, it's only if this battery is fully charged and the flyback cannot go here anymore. And if it is fully charged, the flyback will probably get absorbed into this coil. Which will then send voltage across here and trigger this, but not a problem because you need both of these to close to get this coil to charge. Once again, not really a problem. Maybe a problem for the transistor being switched for no reason, and you know, might be a problem, but I don't see it as a huge issue. Switching a transistor for no purpose whatsoever. Maybe this transistor will go bad because it's switching more than the other transistor. Maybe this transistor will go bad first, you know, but it's not going to cause the circuit not to operate. So I still think it's worth prototyping or building this. And if it becomes a problem, you can always trigger this circuit without a trigger point. In the meantime, I'm going to ignore that issue, while at the same time I'll try to find a workaround. I honestly don't see one though, because I thought about putting a diode here to stop this positive flyback signal from reaching the negative side. But the problem with that is it's like putting a diode here when you do that. And when you put a diode there and this gate closes, I don't know how the positive is supposed to flow. It won't, and this will not charge having a diode here. So I didn't do that. I did do that at first, I took it out. I'm going without it now because I have that reason there. I won't be able to charge this coil when I have a diode there. But having the diode there will stop this from triggering. But at the same time, it'll stop this coil from charging. So I'm not going to use a diode there. I'm trying to find another way to do this. But again, it's not that important because triggering only one transistor is not going to activate this coil and charge it. It's only, it's only going to do this.
We need both these channels to close for this coil to charge. So it's up to you guys if you want to build this anyway. If you find that one of the, that's triggering from the flyback, just know it's only going to close one channel and it won't cause this to charge when it's not supposed to charge. But this cycle right here, we're looking at the flyback of this battery going into this battery. Yeah, this is the cycle we're looking at. And when it does that, the flyback will trigger this channel to close only this channel. This channel remains untouched because the negative is here from the flyback hitting this emitter only. The negative from the flyback does not reach here. Okay, this channel here is a positive flyback channel, which that positive goes to here. It's that base. And you know already the negative hits the emitter here. It does not hit here. The negative is here. So that's that. That's the possible issue here. An issue that will not cause the circuit to operate incorrectly. It will only cause one channel to close, which will not be a problem in my view, because one channel closing here is not going to charge this. You need both to close. In this cycle we're looking at here, this is not supposed to be getting charged. The only thing that's happening in this event is this battery is receiving flyback from this coil. This is a negative, a positive here. This becomes a negative. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to leave the circuit as is. Anticipate the flyback triggering this gate to close. Right there. Don't anticipate that being a problem, because it won't cause this to charge when it's not supposed to charge. On the next cycle, on the other side of the triggers, on this trigger circuit, which will be a duplicate circuit of this, on that trigger circuit the same thing will happen, only this negative will close, causing this not to charge because this will be open. I still think it's okay to do this like this. You have one channel closed unintentionally. That's not going to be an issue. So when this trigger circuit is activated, it will close these two channels here and charge this coil up, like you see it doing now. Let's be this trigger circuit. Right now we're looking at this trigger circuit. So I'm going to close that one. Alright, I just thought I'd mention that so you guys can be aware of possible event, a non-conflicting event to the circuit operation. If it becomes a problem, I only see it being a problem for this transistor running more, switching more often than this transistor is. And when it switches during that event, it's switching for no reason at all. It's not doing anything by switching there. It's just an unintended consequence of the flyback and having a trigger winding circuit attached to the flyback loop circuit. You can avoid this issue by triggering it with an Arduino or You can also trigger it with a double pole, double throw relay on each plus and minus of each battery. And that helps to isolate any issues like that. You know, keep in mind the trigger winding was designed for the single bifilar system, a single inductor system. It wasn't designed to have on two inductors. But consequently, having a trigger winding on two inductors with two transistors, you will have a possible issue like that of closing one gate on one side of the circuit, and it will do that on the side of the circuit that's currently inactive. So it's not really an issue, in my opinion. And in essence, the trigger winding will act like a neon bulb for your one of the transistors. It'll act like a protecting circuit for when the battery's fully charged and it can't take any more flyback. It'll head out through this channel here, through the trigger winding, and the trigger winding will absorb that flyback through the switching of the diode. So the trigger winding, when this battery's full, can't take any more flyback, it will go through the trigger winding here and get absorbed. And, you know, whatever, just get absorbed there. But, you know, like I said, I don't see that as a problem. I still think that, you know, to build this thing, and it will still operate, and then once you get it built and it's operating, then you could take some volt measurements and see what's going on better. And yeah, I just don't see it as a problem. You know, I prefer to trigger this with an Arduino for a few reasons. Because one, you can control your frequency and keep it steady. It is good to have a trigger winding, because you can also tune it to the sweet spot with your potentiometer or your resistor to the base. But you could do the same thing with an
Come on. Do it. Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it. Do it.
Who is doing it?
Do it.
Do it.
All of it.
Do it.
Come on. Do it now.
And I will do the rest.